Hello and welcome to our office hours presentation today. This is your host, Paul Hoyt. Our office hours presentation is a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we hold every Monday at noon Pacific time. All these recording slides, exercises are archived in our members area, and all the recordings are currently available on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do these office hours presentations is that we know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's tough. It's really tough. You need support to be successful, and we want you to get to know us because when you do, you'll know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to be successful in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day as we try to do. Our passion is to helping entrepreneurs and small business owners get clear, stay focused, and grow faster. And I will be talking to you later on about some of the programs we have to help you do exactly those things. We oftentimes relate the key performance areas of business to the subject matter of today. I define these 7 key performance areas of business in my book that I wrote in 2004 called The Foundation Factor. And today I kind of picked a theme to the open coaching call, which is focused on leadership. As it turns out, probably 30 or 40% of all of the office hours presentations that we've done over the last 3.5 years now that we have been doing them, have been focused on the subject of leadership because that is, to me, the most important and the most challenging of all of the different areas of business. And for a CEO, for an entrepreneur, it is their primary challenge. One of the things that we encourage them to recognize is that the Awakened CEO system really does make sense. You know, being a business owner isn't just about taking action and building momentum. It really is smart to have a good plan around that, to have your methods in place, and to have a really good mindset about the business, to believe in the business, believe in your customers, believe in the value of your product and services, etc. But being successful in business isn't just about business growth. It's also about personal growth. It's about learning the things that you need to learn in order to do the things that you need to do to be successful in business. And it's not just about that either. It's also about personal growth. It's about being the person that you need to be, to overcoming your personal blocks and obstacles that are required in order for you to learn the things that you need to learn, in order for you to do the things that you need to do to be successful in business. And that's what the Awakened CEO system is all about, is supporting you in each one of these 9 different cells and each one of these 9 different nonuts. You know, whatever it is that you see as a challenge in your business, whether it be a personal challenge, a professional challenge, or a business challenge, we love to support you in overcoming those challenges and addressing those. In today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be a great leader in order to stimulate the conversation a bit. And then we're going to go into open Q&A and coaching. And I want you to stick around because we're going to have a very special announcement about halfway through today's program. And then I'm going to remind you of some special offers that we have and ways that we can support you in your business. But let's get started on talking about what it means to be a great leader. As I mentioned before, you know, we've had, gosh, I would guess maybe 30 or 40, 38, something like that, office hours presentations dedicated to the subject of leadership. And of course, we talked about it a lot in my book, The Foundation Factor. And whenever we help people with the business foundation profile, we talk a lot about leadership. But here are the 9 or so different things that I want you to focus on and think about when it comes to you being a great leader in your business. First responsibility of the business owner, of the leader of the business, is to define the vision and carry the flame. And that means understanding what it is that you want to accomplish and why you want to accomplish that. To tap into your own passion so that your passion can become contagious to other people and your passion can become their passion and they can really rally around the flag, so to speak, and support you in creating what it is that you want to create. Defining the what and defining the why are the first 2 aspects of really getting clear in your business. Then once you are clear on what you want to accomplish and why you want to accomplish it, then you can begin defining the business model and you can create and begin to execute your growth plans. And you can implement systems and processes. And all of that, all of this creating a viable business model, this creating and executing your growth plans, this implementing your systems and processes inside your company is about determining the how of your business. And together, the what and the why and the how are aspects of getting clear, and some of the things that we love to support business owners is doing. So if you are a leader of your business, and I'm assuming everybody on the call today and those who are listening to the recording, are leaders, CEOs at their business, we really want you to define the vision, create a viable business model, one that allows you to create a profitable, sustainable, and scalable business, implement systems and processes, develop and implement your growth strategies, really determine your how, and then go for it in creating your business. But there are other aspects to being a leader as well. One of the most important things is building a great team. And everybody, by the way, every business owner has a team. It may not be employees, it may not be permanent contractors, but everybody's got to have a team, even if it's just your advisors and coaches that you consider to be part of your team. For most people, and I put myself square in the middle of this, we don't have excellence in every area of business. We may be excellent in 2 or 3 of them and extremely competent in others, but we find that there are 1 or more areas of business where we really need the expertise that other people have. In my particular case, and perhaps yours too, it's in marketing. Marketing is by far my weakest performance area, and it's because it really does take a lot of specialists. So I hire social media specialists. I hire graphic artists to come in and be members of my team as I grow my business, plus of course the attorneys and the people who help me with the tax returns and all of those other people. So you have to build a great team of people that you trust, of people who are competent, and then you want to make sure that they understand what it is that you want to accomplish, why you want to accomplish it, how you intend to accomplish it, so that you can align the organization and lead that team so that we're all paddling the canoe in the same direction, that we're all focused on that same objective and working together in an aligned, efficient, synergistic way in order to get there. As a part of the team, you also want to develop and manage the company culture. Are we, highly aggressive and working from 7 in the morning till midnight every night, or do we have a little bit of an ease about that? Do we just come to work at 8 o'clock and take off at 5? Or is it 8 to 7? Do we work weekends and holidays when required? How do we treat our suppliers, our partners, our customers, our investors, other people in the industry? How do we talk about our competitors? Do we talk about them with respect and admiration and see our competition with them as one of a game and a challenge that we're up for, but we don't really hate them? Or do we talk about our competitors as being those evil creeps that we have to do away with and crush in some way? All that is part of your company culture, and that's your responsibility as the leader of your company to define that and communicate that and make sure that everybody in your team knows exactly what the culture is. We talked about communications a few times, but communicating well means communicating in orally when you're speaking with other people. It may mean communicating from stage. It may mean communicating well on video, on a camera in some way. And it may mean communicating in your written language. As it turns out, as a leader, that communication is really important. Ideally, you would be very comfortable in front of the camera. You'd be very comfortable in a recorded interview session. You'd be comfortable on stage, whether they be 10, 100, or 1,000 people in the audience. And you'd be comfortable with your writing skills, knowing that you can put words together to form sentences, and sentences together to form paragraphs, and paragraphs together to form articles, and articles and chapters together to form books. I mean, that ideally, as a leader, you would also be an excellent communicator. For many of you out there, that means also communicating with potential investors and funders, because you need to raise capital to grow your business. You're not just able to do it from your own funds. A lot of companies are bootstrapped, and we strongly recommend that a company is bootstrapped in its early days. But at some point in time, you need to communicate at least with a banker for a business line of credit, if not with friends and family and other unsophisticated and sophisticated investors about the opportunity that they have to participate in the growth of your business through an equity investment. And also, as the leader of your company, you need to manage the relationships with key suppliers, customers, and partners. For those of you who have listened to the Awaken CEO Foundations program, you know that I always say when it gets to the subject of sales is that that's something that you absolutely cannot abdicate. As the owner of your business, you can't hire somebody else to be totally responsible for sales. You still need to manage the relationship with key customers and key suppliers and alliance partners and investors, and that means being good at sales and understanding sales processes. So I wanted to share that a little bit, my thoughts on what it means to be a great leader. In summary, hold the vision, understanding what it is that you want to accomplish and why you're going to accomplish it, creating a profitable, scalable, and sustainable business model, creating great plans and great internal systems, developing a team, and then aligning your team so that they work well together, communicating with everybody with excellence, and managing all of the key relationships. I think I'm going to leave that up here for just a little bit. I'll go to the next slide briefly in case some of you want to write this down, because we're going to open it up to open Q&A here in just a second. I'm going to share with you some of the discussions that I've had on the subject of leadership with some of my clients just in the last week or so, and then invite you to ask a question, raise up your hand if you like, and or type a question into the chat log, and we'll talk about the various aspects of leadership that you want to talk about. And here's the contact information. If you want to suggest presentations that I might give in the future, you can go to paulsurvey.com or email me just by sending an email to paul@paulhoyt.com or calling me at 415-997-8001. Most of you who are on the call right now, I know, have all that contact information. So I'm going to go back one page, or one slide rather, and we're going to kind of leave that up there as a reminder of some of the different aspects of leadership that we might talk to today. And we were blessed with a few emails that came in about questions that they had or discussion topics that they had. And I also want to talk about some issues that I've helped clients address in the last week or so, last couple of weeks, on the subject of leadership. So here's the first one. I have a client who's doing website development through a third party, and their question to me was, my website developer is behind schedule, and I've worked with him as best I possibly could, but it's getting a little frustrating. Do you have any tips or recommendations? And yeah, I do, because every business needs a website. I don't know, I guess I have one business that I'm working with that hasn't put up their website yet, primarily because they're not set on their brand yet. You kind of have to take those things in step. You have to figure out what your brand is, and especially your style guide and your logo and your theme before you put up a website, generally speaking, or you're going to have to do the whole thing over again, because you want the theme of the website to be consistent with your branding of the website. So typically, it's the name and the core marketing messages that come first, and then it's the graphics and the logo, and then it's your marketing collateral, which to me includes that website. But website projects in general are generally behind schedule. I think I read something a couple of 3 years ago that I know to be true for myself and my own personal experience, is that about 80% of website development projects either fail completely or they're behind schedule or over budget in some way. And the reason is a couple of different reasons. Number one is website design is a highly creative project. And what's in your mind about the way you want the site to look and feel may not be exactly what's in the mind of your website developer. So really understanding and getting clear on that from a design point of view is really important. When I work with website developers and when I coach my clients on working with them, that means going out and finding 4 or 5 or 6 other websites that you really like so that they get an idea of what quality looks like to you so that they can create quality in a fashion that works for you. Also, it usually there are a lot of moving pieces with a website that only a few of those are delivered by the website developer, and a whole bunch of them are delivered by the person who's hired the website developer. For example, all of the copy that goes on the homepage, any handouts that you want to have or free giveaways that you want to have, any sort of marketing messages that you want to convey. It's like 80% of the content that goes on a website actually has to be delivered from the person who has hired the website developer. In most cases, we hire somebody else, not the website developer, but a copywriter or a marketing specialist in some way to help us develop the content, and then we hand the content off to the developer and they implement the content on their site. And those are just some of the reasons why website development projects are typically behind schedule and over budget. It's because you just can't hire somebody to do your website. You have to hire a team of people to help create the content, the marketing messages, the logos and the brand, and you have to write a lot of content yourself. You have to make a lot of decisions about what you want the website to do and how you want it to perform, and you need to communicate that all with the website developer. And if that sounds like a lot of work and it sounds like a very complex project, then I have communicated well, because it is a lot of work and it is a complex project. And there are a lot of moving pieces. And oftentimes, I've seen clients say, I just want a real simple website. I just want a 1 or 2 page website. How hard can that be? And even a 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 page website, can be very, very difficult. So back to the question at hand. What can you do when your website development project is behind schedule? Make sure that you've defined all of the moving pieces. And by the way, there can be 15 or 20 or 30 of them, content for each page, the links to download the free giveaways, the links that allow you to connect with your back end that keeps track of who's on your list and who's bought what, setting up the shopping cart, all kinds of different things that you have to do. Make sure that you've defined all of those moving pieces and that you yourself are taking responsibility for the moving pieces that you have to provide. Make sure the website developer understands, that what your expectations were. If you got 20 moving pieces, which ones of those 20 did you expect them to provide, so that you can have that communication with them and make sure that you're on the same page, because the odds are pretty good that you will have thought that they were going to do something that they had no intention of providing as a part of their agreement. So define the project in as much detail as you can. Make sure that you've aligned the team and understand who's going to deliver which one of those moving parts. Make sure that you understand whether or not your website developer is also going to be the project manager, because that's not necessarily true either. You may have a different person, and maybe it's up to you to manage the project of developing the website, because understanding what all of those moving parts are and making sure that everybody understands which ones of those moving parts they're going to be responsible for is very important. And you, as the leader of your company, as the person who has to take 100% responsibility for everything that happens at your company, you've got to manage that project. You've got to make sure that you've aligned the team correctly, etc. And that, by the way, I know that was a fairly long discussion, but that's the reason why 80% of website development projects are over budget or behind schedule in some way. So hopefully that was, of interest to you, and for the person who sent me that email, and for the client I have, hopefully that was supportive of them as well. Next question, next topic, I'm gonna reach in and talk about, and this is an actual discussion I had with a client, so they're not on the call today. And by the way, if I ever work with you, and hopefully I will have a chance to do that, and the situation comes up that's a touchy situation, I'll always disguise it as I talk to other people about it. I'm not gonna, unless you're on the call and you're asking the question, people aren't going to know that the call came from you, because they really do hold, their relationships and that confidence, very, very importantly. So here's a situation I discussed with a client earlier today, or not today, but a couple of days ago. I have a member of my team who wants to pitch in and help others, even when it's beyond the scope of our agreement and our internal policies. Now, she's part of my family, so I really just can't fire her, and I don't want to, because I love her and trust her. But what can I do? And I had a nice conversation about it, and the conversation went something like this. There's really two issues here. Number one is, how do you deal with a member of your family or a business partner who you really can't control and manage in the same way that you would an employee or an independent contractor? With an independent contractor or an employee, there is an implied requirement on their part to follow your directions, to do what you say, that you have the control, you have the authority, and their job is to do the best professional job that they can by following your direction. That's not always true in family members. If it's your son, your daughter, your wife, your sister, your husband, your whoever, there's not this implied, you have to follow my orders relationship, because you got this family relationship that in some way, filters, impacts the business relationship. So there's a couple of things that can make that a lot different, a lot better for you, by the way. One of those things is making sure that you draw the boundaries in between what's family and what's business, and making sure that they understand in the context of business that you have to take control, that you get to make the decisions, and they need to follow those directions, and they need to follow those decisions. And sometimes you can just say, hey, I'm talking to you now as the CEO, not as your brother or sister, but as the CEO, and this is my decision, and I really want you to follow that. If it's not only a family member but a business partner, that can become a little bit more difficult, because partners in general may see that, hey, it's their responsibility to run and manage and operate the business too, and they have just as much right and control to decide the way things are being done as you are. And of course, that's a different conversation. So I think the biggest aspect of that is having that conversation about boundaries and about an agreement, that we agreed that when it comes to sales, I'm going to have the final authority, and we agree that when it comes to operations, that you're going to have the final authority. Remember that we agreed that once the company sets a policy or procedure, that you're going to follow that policy and procedure in the same way that we'd require any independent contractor or employee to follow that policy and procedure, and keep bringing them back to those conversations. And honestly, if it doesn't work to have those conversations yourself, there's a couple other things that you may be able to do. Number one is, we did an office hours presentation, I think it was last summer, or maybe even before then, I kind of lose track because I've been doing so many of them, on structured conversations. It can be that a structured conversation is really helpful, and you can agree to have structured conversations with each other. There's a nonviolent communication, or compassionate communications structured conversation. There's a couples dialogue structured conversation. There's my favorite UCD and UCR system that you can learn if you go listen to that office hours presentation. You can find ways to talk about the things that you need to talk about. And if it's still an issue, then it may mean that you need to do family counseling in some way, and can really get to the heart of those issues. Because if somebody is pushing back on your authority and they're really not willing to make agreements and live in accordance with those agreements, there's something else going on there. And it may behoove you to go to a counselor or a therapist and get to the root cause of that problem that's causing that hesitation and resistance, and causing them to act, in an aggressive, competitive, combative kind of way, and not really pay attention to the agreements that you have in place. So hopefully that was helpful to you. And for those of you on the call, again, I encourage you to type something into the chat log. If you have some aspect of leadership that you want to chat about, otherwise I'm going to go on to the next discussion here. Here's another one that has impacted me a lot too. It says, I have a client that just is not paying their bill. What can I do about that? You know, because I recognize that I have to create a profitable business, and it's not going to be profitable if people aren't paying their money. It's, you know, paying the bills, paying the money that they really do owe me. What can I do about that? Well, number one thing you do about that is that you have to make sure to confront them on that. You have to make sure to ask them that question. You can't just be silent and expect that somebody will at some point in time realize that, oh my God, I've owed Paul, you know, $1,000 for 2.5 years now. I guess I should pay him, because that ain't going to happen. You have to make sure that you are calling them on that and reminding them of that obligation and doing it in a professional way that is effective for you. We did an office hours presentation on tips on credits and collections some point in time. I don't remember what the number of it is. But if it's really a problem with you, I encourage you to watch that office hours presentation. Here are just some little tips that you might want to do. Number one is make sure that you structure your engagements so that you're never out on a tremendous amount of money. So if you have, you know, if you're selling something for 30 or 40 or 50 bucks, you know, and somebody doesn't pay you for it on the other end, you can afford the loss. If you're selling something for $5,000 or $10,000 and you've got a lot of service associated with that, or you've got a lot of cost in the actual product that's been delivered, you can be out a tremendous amount. So it's really important for you to require payment in advance, or certainly down payments and progress payments, so that you limited your risk and your exposure to a reasonable amount. I certainly do that whenever I say write business plans for people, or you know, or engage in a lot of different coaching sessions with people. We require, you know, if it's a reasonable amount, we require payment all up front. And if you got a problem, we'll give you all or part of your money back. That's for sure. But I've limited my risk and my exposure by getting a lot of the money, if not all of the money, for the smaller packages up front. So that's one thing that you can do right away. In addition to confronting them in writing, pick up the phone and give them a call and tell them that, hey, you're uncomfortable with the way they haven't paid this bill. You know, is there anything wrong? Is there anything I need to do? And if they say, no, I'm just all out of money, then the best question of every credit and collections person is, well, how much can you pay today? You know, can you make a payment on that? Even $5, $10, $50, $100 would be greatly appreciated. And I know that you can pay $5 or $10 because, you know, you got to have lunch. And 99.9% of the time, people can certainly do that. So asking for partial payment is really important. Picking up the phone is really important. Structuring your business so that you've limited your risk and your exposure is really important. And by the way, that's even more important when you're dealing with startup businesses, small businesses, or I would say lower income families. You know, if you're providing services and products to people who you know don't have a lot of money, and who you know are likely to be strapped in some way and have potentially, you know, may run out of money, and you know that your risk is greater, you have to take steps as the CEO of your business to limit your risk in ways that you wouldn't have to if you're dealing with Fortune 500 companies or very large companies. The bottom line is, large companies typically pay their bills. They may be late 45 or 60 days, but they typically will pay their bills, and they have the cash flow in their business in order to pay their bills. Startup companies, low-income families may or may not pay their bills because they run out of money and they get financially strapped. So make sure you understand who it is that you're dealing with and take the appropriate measures to limit your risk so that you can, you know, that you can enjoy having a profitable business. I think that's pretty good advice, and that's certainly something that I do in my business. We've been on the line for a little bit, and I've been itching to talk to you about this special announcement. So I'm going to jump forward here a little bit. We're going to pause the questions and discussion and I want to talk to you a little bit about something that's been on my mind that I'm really, really excited about. First, next office hours, we're going to do it again next Monday as we normally do. And here for a while, I'm going to do live group coaching. At some point in time, I'm going to jump back in and do more formal presentations, and I'd certainly encourage you to do that as I am inspired to do it. I was inspired today to talk about leadership. I may be inspired to talk about one or more of the key performance areas next week, but as always, give us your contributions. Go to paulsurvey.com or simply give me an email. And here's the special announcement that I'm really, really excited about. I'm taking my personal and social responsibility very seriously and branching out in a way that is new to me. And I have for the last year or so been working with my twin brother from Harlem, Paz Simpson, on developing a community and writing a book called Racial Intelligence. This book on racial intelligence, I hope, goes a long way to be creating a movement to cure racism in the United States. And I wanted to launch it today, in celebration of, in honor of Martin Luther King's birthday, which, as we talked earlier, is a national holiday. The book's manuscript has been written. We've been writing it for a year, and we decided just last week to go ahead and begin developing the community and of people who are like-minded and who have an interest in ending the racism and the prejudice and the discrimination problem that we have in the United States. So we've launched a Facebook community. We've launched a LinkedIn community, a place where we can go and share inspirational messages and messages of cooperation with each other and begin to build this movement in preparation for the book, which will be coming out probably in the next 60 to 90 days or so. We're going to launch it during Black History Month, which is next February, or actually starts in a couple of weeks, but we decided to jump in and be bold and audacious and launch it today. So I encourage you to check out the Facebook community on racial intelligence and the LinkedIn community on racial intelligence. Join us, make your contributions as appropriate, and join us in this movement. I really do believe that we can make great progress and great strides in ending the challenges that racial discrimination and prejudice present to our friends, our fellow Americans who just happen to have a little darker skin than I do. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the special offer that we have for those of you who are here last week. This is a continuance. Our Gold Clarity Package is the primary way, our usual entry point in working with our clients. It is 5 90-minute sessions. The first 90-minute session is the Business Clarity Questionnaire to help you really define the what about your business. We go into a phased growth strategy that helps you define a little bit of the how. The Business Foundation Profile is a classic gap analysis that helps us all understand where you are and your capability of you and your team relative to the challenges of the business that you want to create. We create a 90-day growth plan so you're very clear on what it is that you want to accomplish in the next 90 days and a budget so that you know exactly how much it's going to cost you to do that. That package is normally $1,750. Our special is $1,497, which are going to continue now. And our guarantee is that you get 100% money back guarantee. If we get through that first session and you don't want to continue, if you decide it's just not for you and you're not excited about completing the rest of the 4 sessions, we'll give you a 100% refund. And we're also continuing our bonus, and that is for a limited time, a free coaching session. So that gives you 6 sessions, not just 5, to help you stay focused and get on track. That's normally a $250 charge, but we're throwing it in as a bonus. So that is our way to help you get clear, stay focused, and grow faster. 5 90-minute planning sessions, 1 bonus follow-up coaching session, tools that you can use in your business forever. The 90-day growth plan, the phased growth strategy, the first step financial plan, the Business Clarity Questionnaire are things that we deliver in Word documents and Excel spreadsheets so you can continue to use those in your business forever, even when we have concluded our engagement, with a 100% money-back guarantee, and all of that's yours for just $1,500. If you're interested, please give me a call. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more about the program and explore whether or not that's just exactly the right thing for you to get your business moving forward very quickly here in 2017. With that, we're going to return to Q&A and discussions. We got somebody who typed something in. Nick typed in. He suggests in relative to the last discussion topic we had on getting paid. I'll read this here. We need to address that we as business owners are worthy of being paid for the products and services we render or sell, and a business owner deserves to be paid. That's absolutely true. We talk about how the importance of mindset in business, and that's a big part of the mindset. You need to be very, very comfortable that the products and services that you provide are of extreme value to other people. And it's their responsibility to tell you if it wasn't of value to them in some way. Make the assumption that they were extremely valuable and well worth the money that you are charging for it and the money that they agreed to pay you for it. Don't think, for example, that, they're not paying me, that means I must have done a bad job, or that means I must have overpriced it or something like that. No, that's kind of a pity party. Step into your warrior mentality and your warrior mindset and that confidence you have in the value of your products and services, because their unwillingness to pay is about them. It's not about you. Give them the opportunity to step back into their integrity. Give them the opportunity to work on your relationship, the relationship they have with you, by honoring the commitment they made to you and the commitment they made to themselves by paying for the products and services that they agreed to consume. So thank you very much for that. As so many things in business, it's not just about tactics. It's not just about doing the work. It's about the mindset that you bring into that situation that enables you to have a real positive outcome to that situation. So thank you very much, Nick. That's a great comment. Next subject of discussion. I launched a certification program for people who want to distribute my products and services, and had a dozen or so people come and pay for the training last year, but now they're really not actually distributing my products. They seem to have kind of gone away, and what can I do about that? I think that this may be related to the challenge that we see in the entire information products training and education industry. And that is, people pay for the training and education, but they don't actually use it. They may buy, even up to a $5,000 or a $10,000 coaching program, but they don't show up for the calls. They might buy an information product for several $100s or many thousands of dollars, but they never even break the seal on what you send them. They may sign up for an online education program and pay their $100 or $200 or $500, but they don't ever actually go online and sign in and do it. They may, do it at first hour of a 16-hour program, but they don't do the rest of it. That seems to be a huge problem in our society. If people act on impulse, they invest time and money in something, and then either their courage goes away or their interest goes away, or they become a little bit, victims of shiny object syndrome, and they move into the next thing before they take advantage of that which they have purchased. I think shiny object syndrome is part of that. I think the whole that people's, their plates are bigger than their stomach. They bite off a little more than they can chew. They get into the actual execution of the program, and they find out that it wasn't near as much fun as they thought that it was going to be, or it becomes tougher than they thought that it was going to be. We seem to have in our society today almost a culture of, I'm going to test this out, try it out, buy it, but I may not finish using it. I may not finish consuming it. I may not actually do the work, and hey, that's okay. So, and by the way, I think in many regards that is okay. If somebody buys a $1,000 training program and they get, a few hours into it and decide, this isn't what I thought that it was going to be, or this is too much work for me, I think for them to abandon it halfway through is okay in some circumstances. Now here's the way that it's not okay. When it's not okay is if they're doing it time and time and time and time again. If they're spending $5,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 on all of these products and services that just stay on the shelf, they really are kind of a hoarder, a hoarder of information products. There's books, not books, there's TV shows on TV about hoarders, people who have, it's a mental disorder. It's a social disorder where we buy things that we don't actually need and buy things that we can never use, but somehow we feel safer in the purchase and in the putting them on the shelves. We feel safer and better about ourselves for having started to make the investment. Now that can be a problem. If it only happens to you 1 out of every 5 times or 1 out of every 3 or 4 times that we buy something that we don't really like, especially if it's small dollars, I don't think that's a big deal. And maybe I'm saying that because I'm a little bit, I do that myself. I buy books, for $9, $10, $15. I read the first 2 or 3 chapters of that book, and if I feel like I'm not moved to read the rest of the book, I don't do it. I don't make a commitment to myself that I'm going to finish every book that I buy. I do, however, make a commitment to myself that I'm going to read a few chapters of every book that I buy. So, I myself, at some point in time, determine that the continued investment in that particular activity or program, I don't judge to be worth my time. I'm going to go try something else, and that works very well for me. And I feel very much in integrity, by the way, when I do that. I do think it becomes a huge problem when somebody is investing tens of thousands of dollars in programs that they never open or in programs that they never implement, and because then that becomes a huge, huge waste of money. So with these people, that was a long-winded answer. I apologize for the long-windedness there. But when these people buy your products and services or buy your training programs, and then they don't actually implement the training program, it could be that they just wanted to have their curiosity satisfied. It may be that in their mind, they were dipping their toe in the water to see if it was something they really wanted to do, instead of making a commitment to themselves and making a commitment to you that they were actually going to follow through with the program. We see that a lot. People get trained as coaches. We get trained in various aspects of social media marketing. We get trained in all kinds of different areas, and we come back and implement just a little bit of the training program in our lives. We file it away for future use, but we don't feel like we're committed to actually doing the whole thing or jumping into it 100% full-time. We just thought we were dipping our toe in the water. We thought we were taking a course that we weren't obligated in some way to implement for the rest of our lives. So I think that's a tradition in our society. With the internet, we become addicted to learning things, addicted to learning that next great thing. And I know that I really love to learn things. It can be very stimulating and very empowering. And by the way, I think that's a key word. It's very empowering to people to go spend $500, to buy a book for $15 and get into it. It's very empowering when we think of how much we have the opportunity to learn new things and go for it. So, that becomes a habit for some people. Hopefully that discussion was a little bit helpful to you. We got time for a few more. Again, if you're listening to the call live, if you're online, we encourage you to type something into the chat log or raise your hand in some way, because we'd love to chat with you interactively. And if not, I'm just going to continue, because I have a couple other discussion topics here and an email that came in too that I want to talk about. Here's the next one that I talked to a client about. Some people like the name of my new product, and other people don't like the name of my new product. And I've been working at it for a while, and I'm not really sure whether or not I'm going to find a name that everybody likes, and shall I just go for it? And I think the answer is, yeah, at some point in time, you just got to go for it. You got to realize that the name that you have for your company, the name that you have for your product, is not going to please everybody, and at some point in time, you have to go for it. Now, by the way, that does not mean that we just take it upon ourselves to name things without interacting with our market. What I'm talking about is if you floated the name, to 20 people or to 30 people, and some of them like it and some of them don't, You may just want to go ahead and say, well, you know, 2/3 of them or 3/4 of them or 80% of them had a good resonant with it, so I think that's going to work. It's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to find a name for a product or service or a logo or whatever that everybody's going to say is their favorite and everybody's inclined to accept. At some point in time, after you've done your market research, you do have to make a decision. If you find, however, in your market research that, I talked to 20 people and 4 of them liked it and 16 of them thought it sucked, pardon my French, then the data's in. Don't go in that direction. Ask them for their ideas and insights. Ask your community for better names for it and see what they can say. But once you hit that 75%, 80% of people like it or at least think it's acceptable, then go for it, because you can spend the rest of your life trying to find a product, a service, a logo, name that everybody loves. I'm guessing that people didn't like IBM, that people didn't like Coca-Cola, that people didn't like the name Apple, they didn't like the name Google, they didn't like the name LinkedIn, that somebody out there somewhere didn't like the names of those companies and their products, which now have become commonplace and brands worth millions, if not billions of dollars. So do your market research, ask people for their ideas, and when you start to see something that hits the 75-80% mark of product acceptance and market acceptance, then go for it. And I got a nice comment from Nick as well. Make sure the name is memorable and unique so it stands out and people remember you for it. That's absolutely true. We want to try to get a name that's brandable in some way. Ideally, we should be able to get a trademark on it, and ideally we should be able to get the primary domain name for it, and we'd be able to develop that name into some intellectual property at some point in time. So you want to make sure, in addition to market research, you want to see whether or not you can get the domain names. You want to see whether or not there are any trademarks associated with it. You want to make sure that you're doing your Google searches about it so that you understand whether or not that name is being used by other people, if it's the name of a book, if it's the name of whatever, so that you can build up some intellectual property and some brand awareness in that name that you have come up with, and so that you can build some value in that long term. I got another little comment here from Michael, and thank you very much. It says, leadership takes stamina and physical ability, sometimes more than you expected. How do you balance and strengthen your stamina? That the business will be strong if you are. Thank you for that very much, because I'm gonna take you off. I'm gonna take you off of mute in a second, and then after I say this, it was a surprise to me to understand the relationship in between your own physical stamina and the success of your business. But there is a tremendous relationship between that. I thought for a long time as a young man that this mind, body, spirit stuff was just kind of hocus pocus, and that's for people who really weren't as smart as I was. It was a very humbling thing for me to understand the relationship in between the mind and the body and the spirit. And lately, I say lately, I mean in the last year or two, I've really come to understand the power of having a very strong physical body and how that can relate to having a very positive mindset, and how that can relate to having tremendous success in your business. And by physical body, I mean endurance training and strength training. So I've been doing both for years, and it's really, really paying off. Yesterday, for example, I rode on my bike for 2 hours, rode nearly 40 miles, kept my heart rate under 140 beats per minute, and I am in great shape from an endurance point of view. I do push-ups, I do sit-ups, I do all kinds of other things to increase my strength. I really think it's important for every business owner, to pay attention to their physical bodies and make sure that they're doing the right exercise. And by the way, that's strength and endurance training, putting the right stuff into their bodies. They're giving themselves the appropriate nutrition in the appropriate amounts so that they can maintain weight at a good and reasonable weight, and they're focusing on their spirit. You know, they're focusing on their spirit with meditation, with prayer, by listening to inspirational messages, by listening to good music, that we're paying attention to our mind and our body and our spirit, because all of that impacts our mindset. And mindset, what you believe about yourself, what you believe about your products and services, makes all the difference in the world when it comes to your business. So, Michael, I'm going to take you off of mute here for just a second, invite you to chime in, and I'm interested, if you're willing to share, you know, what you're doing for yourself in terms of mind, body, spirit, exercise and nutrition and meditation, etc. You are off of mute if you can.
Yes. Hello, Paul. This was brought on by the 60-minute interview last evening, and they had asked the exiting president, you know, what wisdom he might be able to pass on, and he commented how it took a lot more stamina and strength. And you think of a leadership position, you know, you can kind of create your own. You know, the amount of energy that you have to put out in amongst all these people, it just can kind of grow and grow. And especially with your new program, you'll have to monitor your energy level now. So I'm in agreement. It's just physical stamina and staying at the top of your game, you know, and pick a sport or stay with a sport and do it well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the comment, and I appreciate the interaction here as well. Thank you so much, Michael.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of that, of course. You know, for those of you who've been around me for a while, you know that I talk a lot about empowerment, the law of empowerment and the law of protection. You know, anything that we can do to help us feel strong in one area of our life carries over into other areas of our life. So if we feel strong physically, it can help us with our confidence and our courage when it comes time to doing, for example, to make that collection call. If you feel weak and sick, you know, it's not going to help you when you do that collection call. If you can drop down and do 50 push-ups, then pick up the phone and make that correct collection call and see how empowered you feel. See how much that helps you step into your warrior energy, into your leadership energy, and it's really does impact. There really is a mind, body, spirit, business success connection going on in your life. It's all about energy and it's all about vibration, and I encourage you to think about that and use that, manage that, work with that in your business. I got 12:56. I got one more thing that I want to talk about. And this is an actual conversation that I had with a client last week. I'm not sure I want to continue in my business. I think about growing the business and taking it to the next level, and I'm just not sure that I'm up for it. But my kids want me to. I don't know if that's because, you know, they want me to give up on my dream, or whether they really want to get invested in the business and they want it to be there for them whenever they're ready to take over the business, or what. Well, what are your thoughts about that? So I'm going to share with you what I shared with her last week. And that was, you know, first of all, to really understand what that next phase of your business is going to require. And that means getting clear. So getting clear on what it is that you want to accomplish, how you're going to accomplish it, why you want to accomplish it, and you really understand the effort that's involved. Because a lot of times I see people and they look at, oh my God, I got to do this thing, and it seems daunting to them. But once we define the steps, you know, for example, I want to write a book, but I've never written a book before and I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do? And so we take that and we create the 30-step plan to take your book from I want to write a book, in between I published my book. And when they see the path laid out in front of them, all of a sudden it gets a lot easier. And they realize that, well, I can take this next step, and then I can take this next step, and then I can take this next step. In the book Switch, you know, How to Change When Change is Hard, it makes that point very, very clearly, that the way you get people to implement change in their lives is you make it in bite-sized chunks, just one little step at a time. So oftentimes getting clear on the path, getting clear on the 5-step plan, the 10-step plan, the 30-step plan, breaks it down and allows you to focus on that next thing, and things seem a lot easier to do. So that's recommendation number 1. Get very clear on what's going to be required for you to take that next step in your business or continue in business. And in this particular case, I invited this young lady to say, get your kids involved in the planning process. Once they see how much work is required to take the business or continue the business, then maybe they'll think a little bit differently about whether mom and dad should continue the business, because they'll see what's really involved in it. And ideally, by the way, maybe they'll step up. Maybe they'll say, well, you know, I'll help you with that. I'll do that. I'll take responsibility for that. So one of the keys in leadership when it comes to creating and executing plans is it's real important for the people who are going to be responsible to execute the plan to be involved in creating the plan, because we'll get their ideas, so we'll get a better plan, and we'll get their buy-in. They'll think that this is mine. You know, I contributed to this. I can take pride in the execution of this plan because I helped create the plan in the first place. So that's the counsel that I gave her last week. Is number 1, before you decide to shut down the business, before you decide to sell the business, make sure you're very clear on what it's going to take that business to that next level, whatever that is. And then you can make the decision as to whether or not you want to maintain it where it is. In her case, by the way, it wasn't as profitable as she wanted it to be. So she didn't want to maintain it like it was, but she realized to make it into a much larger business that would pay her what she needed for it to pay her, that it was going to take a considerable investment in time and money in order to do that, and that's why she was asking the question in the first place. So you get very clear on what it's going to take to transform the business from where it is to where you want it to be, and then get other people to help create those plans so that they can get bought into it, and then you can make the decision as a family whether the family wants to continue with the business or sell the business, or whether the family makes a decision that we want to sell it, you know, and go on and just, you know, thank goodness for the blessing of taking it this far, and from the education and the excitement that was received in that process, and realize that when we decide that we're going to go in a different direction, that the universe will open up to us all kinds of possibilities, and have that faith and have that courage in order to go in a different direction if that's what is right for you. And with that, I think we're going to call it an end to today's office hours presentation. You know, as I mentioned during that, I really encourage you to go to, you know, Facebook and LinkedIn and join us in our racial intelligence movement, the movement to cure racism in the United States. I think that there's a lot that we can do for that, and I'm really encouraged to do my part to support my friends out there, my colleagues, and yes, my family members who have darker skin than I have, in ending this pattern of abuse towards children, towards older people, towards everybody, where we judge them on the superficial characteristics of the way that they look and the way that what they dress and maybe their language and accent. I'll leave you with this part. The most beautiful person in the world that I have ever met, the most powerful spiritual leader in the world that I have ever met, a person who I hold with the utmost reverence and respect, is a gentleman named Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He has 160 million followers. He is a beautiful, beautiful human being. He has skin that's as dark as chocolate. So it's possible for the light of God to shine through people who have skin who's much darker than mine. And I know that, I accept that. When you think about it, hopefully you'll see that too, and you'll be inspired to help other people see that for themselves. God bless. Thanks so much. Till we meet again, this is Paul Hoyt, wishing you all a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.